Episode 3, Season 2 of Pacific Indians Chatter. I'm host Cody Kelly, joined in the studio here with my co-host Scott Brown. How's it going, Coach?
It's going. We've got a busy October, and not just at the Brown house, it seems like, with school and sports, and everybody's lives are turning up right now.
Yeah, this is my first day I'm not going anywhere to coach after this.
Yeah, you've had a busy week.
4 straight nights. Before we jump into the Riverbend Roundup, homecoming parade next Friday at 3 o'clock. It's a little different this year. We're doing the half day, we're going to roll it, and then that parade's going to basically take us right into the tailgate and the homecoming football game.
Yeah, it should be fun. I'm hoping people hop out of their businesses, out of their houses, take a little time on a Friday. Kind of a new trend we're trying to start with moving some things to Friday night. You know, there's a teacher's tailgate, and hope everybody enjoys that next week.
I will say the girls' basketball program loaded itself down with candy the other day. That's with Coach Missy.
I heard there's a lot of money spent on some candy.
There's some candy that was bought, so we are ready to go for the parade.
So, what do you got? Red October. How far do the Cardinals go since they clinched?
I think they can win a series, but it's just going to be tough to get through, like the Braves, Mets, and Dodgers. At some point, their pitching's unreal and their offense.
And our bats have been inconsistent, and I don't know if we've got the swing and miss type pitchers that you need in the playoffs.
Yeah, the magical season has been good, though, for Pujols to get to 700, but I think it's going to run out. I think they can beat the Phillies. That's who they're getting lined up with right now. But after that...
Was 06, I know we're dating you back to a younger year. You're not as old as I am. But 06, didn't we have guys like Suppan and guys that weren't really swing and miss pitchers?
You won it with strike throwers, pitching to contact, and playing good defense. Which the Cardinals team does play pretty good defense. So that's going to be, again, similar to what they're going to do. That was my sophomore year of high school, I believe, when we got that one. So the problem is there weren't any super teams back then, though, like the Dodgers and what they have right now.
We kept the ball in the yard, and that helped us win, I agree.
So let's start us up here at the Riverbend Roundup. I'll jump into girls basketball. It was a busy week on the girls basketball side. 8th grade was in the play-in game of the Washington tournament. They dropped that one to St. Clair. There was some positives to take out of that game, though. They were battling. In the second half, they ended up winning the second half of that game. It was just a bad second quarter that kind of did them in that night. 7th grade, we opened our tournament at Herman, dropping the first round game to Owensville 32-11, but bounced back on Wednesday night with a 22-14 win over St. Clair. Ayla Shapinski led the way that night with 12 points. Went back to Herman for a third night in a row last night, as we recorded this on Friday. Dropped a tough one, 35-18 to Sullivan. It's an 8-point game at half. Kind of just got worn down. You know, some of the people that know our team know our bench is not as big, so over the course of a night facing a press, it starts to wear on you a little bit. But the girls will jump right back in it next week with 3 road games.
Busy times. Yeah, it's good for these girls to get some experience, even though it's long bus rides on a weeknight.
Dude, they were fun.
Yeah. The cross-country team, led by Angie O'Neill, ran at the Fox Invitational this past Saturday. In the boys division, Lucas Godfrey was the highest finisher with a 13th place finish. He also set his PR with his run on Saturday. Annalisa Dreyer also with a PR in the girls race. She came in at 17:29. All the kids finished in both programs in the top 50, which is impressive. This Wednesday, the kids ran at St. James down the highway. Dax Harrison finished third in the boys division, followed by Lucas Godfrey at 8th, and Mason Vonderay, a 14th place finish. The girls took third as a team overall. Coach O'Neill is really proud of the hard work and continued improvement of both the boys and the girls teams in cross country.
Yeah, it's great to see the cross country kids improving each week. I've seen these places like going up and up each week we've been going. We jump over to football on the Riverbend side of things. 7th graders were off this week. Herman did not have enough to field that level, so we had an 8th grade game, and the Indians won that one 63-30. And there was a big night by one of the Indians' running backs, and we'll talk about that probably a little later.
Yeah, it's a track meet, it sounds like, in the football game.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of defense, but it's probably a pretty fun game to watch.
Good for the fans, I'm sure.
Shall we take it up the 425 Indian Warpath? Football side of things, last week the Indians traveled down 44, took on Sullivan. They lost that one 30-0, and that was a Forest Conference contest. Freshman Colton Sooth led the Indians with 81 yards, and Weston Kulik had 92 receiving yards on the night. Freshman Seth Stack ran for 27 and threw for 100 yards on the night. The JV football Indians lost Monday to Sullivan.
I believe it's 40-6.
40-6. It was cut off on here. So the Indians, another tough one, but they keep battling. They got freshmen in that lineup. Start to look towards the future maybe a little bit there.
I know Sullivan's really physical this year, and they were last year when they came to Pacific and kind of gave it to us last year with more of a veteran group. So it was 22, I think, nothing into the late third, early fourth, and we did get the ball down to the red zone a couple times. So I believe the coaches felt there was a little bit of progress, and they played an all right game in a hostile environment.
Yeah, it's a rivalry game, or at least it used to be. I don't know if it's cooling off the Pacific-Sullivan rivalry across sports, but it used to be a nasty one for years.
The softball Indians got a big win this week. They're probably their biggest win of the year so far. They have an 8-7 home win over Borgia. Molly Pritchard kind of got out of a little bit of a slump. 3 big hits against the Lady Knights. Brooke Bearden had 2 hits. And Jalen Miller with an impressive win on the mound. 7 innings, only giving up 3 earned runs. She walked no one and had 7 Ks. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, as we know, the walking no one is a big thing because walks lead to runs.
And we've seen it both on the baseball side of things, but when you give your team a chance and you keep the fielders busy and you're not putting them to sleep, great job, Jalen. Tuesday night, the ladies had to go back to Owensville on the bus, and they eked out a 5-3 win over the Dutch ladies in extra innings. I believe it went 8. Trinity Brandhorst with all 8 innings on the mound. She only gave up 2 earned runs. She struck out 8 and walked only 1 in 8 innings. So we've got that theme again. Melissa Daly, 2 hits. Pritchard and Miller each recorded 2 RBIs in this game. Good win on the road. The FRC, maybe looking at Owensville after the Borgia game, tough bus ride, I guess. But
that's set up for kind of a letdown game after a big Borgia game.
And the key was they got out with a W.
Mm-hmm.
But last night, I guess there wasn't a whole lot of information. You might have got a little bit. The Lady Indians lost 3-0 at Windsor. But
yeah, I didn't get a whole lot. I think maybe there was a couple errors, hurt them a little bit there. And Windsor has a pretty good pitcher. I know they have at least one good arm, and I'm going to say that they ran into her last night, judging by the score.
So they only have a couple left, I think.
They have 2 left, and then they got districts. So
yeah, that season is the shortest, I believe, season in sports.
I'd assume the seed meeting for districts has to be probably this weekend or early next week, because they'll start playing those on the following Monday, the 10th. So.
Yep, so stay tuned for district action in softball. The soccer boys team got a huge win at Union last night, 3-0 at Union. They beat the Wildcats. It's a big rivalry in soccer. Both the boys and girls programs take on the Wildcats every year a couple times, and it's usually a big game. And lately, the Wildcats have been getting the best of the Indians. And we got a revenge win last night at Union. Aiden Biedenstein, Trevor Klund, and Javier Fernandez notched goals. Drew Buffa got the shutout in net. The soccer Indians pushed their record to 5-7. In the JV game, the soccer team tied Union 1-1. I believe Coach Missy says they dominated much of the night and made one small mistake in the end. The Wildcats capitalized and tied it up for a 1-1 tie, and I believe that's how they left it. But looking at the conference and the standings in soccer, it's Sullivan, Union, and Pacific are the only 3 teams out here that have boys soccer, and that kind of makes us think a little bit. Makes it an interesting thought. Our numbers are down and in the FRC in a lot of sports. And do you think that's a trend nationwide, regional? What do you think?
I think that's a trend across the board everywhere. The numbers are down in sports, and it kind of starts to beg the question of, I know this has been something that's been talked about before, but is there expansion possible for the Four Rivers just to try to add some more teams to help some of these sports? Like some sports still have their 8 teams, but then we got to look around. It's not fair to some of these teams that only have 2 or 3 in a conference. Really.
Yeah, and we're talking boys sports too. Sometimes it's no freshman team on the boys level in basketball.
Yep.
There's not many freshman football teams anymore, and kids are finding, I guess, there's a lot different things to do than play sports.
Yeah, somebody told me too they think it could be more options as far as sports go, because some of these schools only have football. to begin with, they've never had soccer, and maybe that helps their football numbers as all those kids play there. But you'd like to see as many options available, and like I said, if that means having to go add some other local teams, because I know people have tried to join the Four Rivers before in the past.
Yeah,
we've run into issues. That could be something I might bring up today with our guest, our athletic director, Blair Thompson.
I know in the past, Warrenton, Rolla, Washington's tried to get back in, but I think the issue is a lot of the smaller schools, they don't really want to let a bigger school into the conference, and you're talking about travel and our numbers, and I think we've had some votes, and some of those small schools have voted down some of these people wanting to get in.
I think there's been a couple small schools that have tried to get in, and then you get the bigger schools that just say no, because we're going to have to find a way to make a compromise and bring two schools in, maybe a small and a big. I don't know. We'll have to see. Moving on to cross country. Last Saturday, the teams competed at the Fox Invitational. Medalists were Nick Humpkins, 13th, and Ben Smith, 17th. At St. James on Wednesday, the varsity boys placed second as a team. Humpkins and Smith placed second and third, and Dylan Stout finishing ninth. The varsity girls won the St. James event with Grace Dreyer finishing third, Lauren Swearjohn finishing fifth, and Elena Daniels finishing ninth. Great work, ladies. Both teams head to Washington Saturday for the Big Driver Invitational. Cross country is starting to get some stuff done. They haven't had a lot of meets early, but now they're kind of rolling every weekend, I think.
Got a feeder program.
The cross country down here at the middle school has been pretty solid. Girls golf. Golf competed in the Four Rivers Conference meet at St. James on Monday. Wednesday night, they faced Washington St. James at Birch Creek. Senior golfer Aaliyah Hatch was chosen second team all-conference this past week, according to Coach Chimza. That's a great work for Aaliyah there. She's been putting in a lot of work on the golf course, I know.
It's a relatively new program, and it's still developing, but you like to see them have some success.
Yeah, we talk about feeder programs there. It's going to take a couple of years probably to get that thing up and running.
One of the sports that is on the rise in our area, Pacific for sure, but it's been pretty popular throughout the Four Rivers. Even the small schools have done very well. It's volleyball. And our ladies traveled to the big-time heralded Herman tournament on Monday night, one of the best small school volleyball tournaments in the state of Missouri, and lots of state championships between some of these teams in this thing. The girls in their pool split with New Haven on Monday. They beat Owensville in 2 sets, and to get in the semifinal bracket play on Thursday night, they had to split with the Borgia Knights. The week before, we lost a 5-setter to Borgia, and on Monday night, the first set back and forth, we take a 25-22 loss, and the Knights kept that momentum and then beat us in set 2. So the ladies qualified for Thursday, the consolation match. Last night they were supposed to go back to Herman, but unfortunately, Gateway Legacy Christian, who was their opponent for Thursday night, somehow was not able to come back for the consolation final. And this happened last year with Gateway Legacy. I believe did the same thing. They did not want to come back for the 5th place game.
Yeah, you said somehow they weren't able to come back. They didn't want to come back.
It's a long drive, and maybe they're upset they weren't in the finals.
I think it was the fact they were in the consolation, and they just basically took a game away from Pacific by not wanting to play.
Might be looking for a new team if I was Herman.
I would be too. Stuff like that does not look good for you as far as trying to get in other tournaments and then other games with teams the rest of the way.
The volleyball team, though, ran their record at 10-7-1 on the year. They had a slow start, and they are battling injuries. So to stay on the plus side of 500, it's very, very good for them. They've got a couple conference matches left, a couple non-conference, and then they are in a tough district in a couple weeks.
You talk injuries. Sarah has been working extremely hard this fall.
Oh, she's making her money.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people banged up this year. Well, before we move on, should we go to everybody's favorite segment?
Let's do it.
Performance of the week. All right, so let's jump in. Performance of the week here. I'll go first. I'll lead it off. This one right now, I'll tell you right, last name's always a problem for me. Sadie plays basketball for us. She always gets on me when I say it wrong. But I'm going to go with her brother, Robert Etherton. 5 touchdowns last night for the 8th grade boys.
Wow.
308 yards rushing. And he had a kick return for a touchdown and a couple other returns. We're talking probably easily over 400 yards from scrimmage. Just an unreal night if we're talking total yards. that was an easy slam dunk performance of the week, I think, for me, with 5 touchdowns.
And they put 63 points on the board.
Yeah, 63 points, and that's why we didn't really dive into it early, because I knew I was coming back to it for my performance of the week. So, Robert, great job, all the 8th grade boys on the football side, or all the 8th graders on the football side.
Yeah, Coach Strong and Coach Cowser kind of stepped in to help this program. They needed some coaches, and they're really good role models for these kids, and it was really good for those 8th graders.
Those 2 coaches also deserve to win, so it's nice to see them pick their first one up.
For the 8th grade, for sure. My performance of the week, I have to go with our cross-country girls team at the high school. Wednesday night, up at a competitive St. James tournament, the girls placed first overall, and Grace Dreyer, Lauren Schwerjohn, Elena Daniel, all medalists in the top 10. Program is under new direction from Coach Schwerjohn, a new teacher in our building at Riverbend. Great guy. He's had some coaching experience and joined us and at Riverbend to teach this year and to coach, and I'm sure doing a very good job being positive with these ladies. And he's being helped by this middle school feeder program, which we mentioned before. It's doing its job. We've got some interest, and these kids are getting out and working hard and having success, and it's paying off at the high school. And I know the boys have had a first place this year and are knocking at the door on a couple meets too. But great job, ladies. You deserve the accolades, cross-country girls team at the high school.
And we talked about it. It's kind of cool because Grace Dreyer was in the Riverbend Roundup last year, and now we're saying her name a ton here when we go up the 425 Indian Warpath. It's kind of fun for us because we have these kids out here at Riverbend and sort of graduate them up to the high school and see how they do. And Coach Schwerjohn, that might be a very good guest sometimes.
Yes, we'll have to have him on.
So before we wrap up this week, don't go anywhere because we got the big interview with our athletic director, Blair Thompson. We're going to talk homecoming. We're going to talk the start of the fall sports, maybe even look at winter a little bit. And
his nephew's in the NFL.
And his nephew, who was the backup last night after Tua got knocked out, and his conference realignment. We're going to have a pretty good conversation with Mr. Thompson today. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we're back in the studio, joined with our athletic director, Blair Thompson. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Cody.
I'm glad to get you in this week because I got a feeling next week's going to be quite a hectic week for you. We're here to talk a little homecoming.
Yep, it's gonna be busy. It's gonna be fun. I know I'm looking forward to it. Been a lot of work, a lot of people putting their heads together, trying to come up with the best plan. It'll be the first time we've gone through the format of the Friday early release, followed by a parade, tailgate game, and there's a lot of logistics moving parts. But we've just throughout the meetings had a lot of people come up with ideas and being willing to step up. It's going to be a big undertaking for a lot of different groups, transportation being one of those. So I know I really appreciate everybody that's been willing to ask and pitch in and help with whatever we have. So there's just a lot of people to thank throughout this process leading up to it.
Yeah, and we're going to touch, it's a different setup this year, and we're going to get into that before we get kind of all the way into homecoming. Fall sports off and running. It's always nice to get that first one going and set. Softball's winding down their season because they got the shorter season of the end, but everything been smooth so far?
Yes, I feel like it has. So everybody's got off to good starts, and seasons have been going well, been healthy, weather's been good for the outdoor sports for the most part. Hope I don't jinx that, but indoor sports, everybody's been trucking along, doing really well. So we're just kind of, as you do throughout the season, you're gearing up, your lineups, personnel, trying to figure out where your weaknesses are, address those as we get into postseason play shortly. So that'll be here very quick, as you said. Softball will be first on that list, and that'll be here extremely quick.
Yeah, this is my first season doing a fall sport, and I'm seeing how going into the fall, and I'm going to jump right into the winter and spring, and I can only imagine how it is for you and Lauren up there in the office, because you guys have all the paperwork and stuff to get done too without a break or any time off.
Yes, it is. it's a big undertaking, just getting everything organized as far as paperwork, physicals, registrations, rosters, but the coaches do a very good job of helping us with that. Whenever they're able to get things to us in a timely manner, it helps us, so we're not waiting around and occasionally get a transfer. So there's paperwork and MISHA procedures to do with some of those things, and so it's a constant process, but a fun one, and it can go smooth whenever you have people doing what they're supposed to do on their end, and we do as a whole. Our group of coaches does a very good job. Lauren does an excellent job in the office of keeping that organized, and then just making sure we're all our ducks are in a row, so to speak, as we get into these seasons.
Yeah, I just used to walk in the spring full of energy, ready for my season. You guys would be a little tired. I go, what's going on? Oh, yeah, 2 other sports. Now I'm starting to kind of feel it with you. All right, let's jump into homecoming, because homecoming's different this year. I've had a lot of questions. People have had a lot of questions. We have a half day of school for that Friday, and we're going to have the parade.
Right.
We'll follow it that day at 3 o'clock. This is our first year. Is this to try to change it up to let the kids be more involved, but taking them just pretty much from school straight to the parade?
Right, and that's really the idea. One of the ideas, anyway, is to try to come up with a format or just a plan to have as many people involved as possible. And ideally, you want to get the kids involved and give them every opportunity to do so. So by doing this, I think we'll be able to provide that. It is going to be a large undertaking. I mentioned transportation, so with the way that's set up, they'll have a busy day that Friday. But I think once we get into this, it will give everybody that is available to be a part of the parade, be at it or in it, if you will, and just try to make a big day out of it, almost like a festival type atmosphere, and hopefully get alumni back, get community involved, along with our current student body, our faculty. But we're really trying to promote it and turn it into as big a deal as we can. I know, like we said, we got an early out that day, followed by that parade, and then we'll have a tailgate after the parade around 5:30 here at the stadium. We'll have various food trucks, a barbecue station set up potentially. Trying to figure that out as we get down to the wire here. But there should be some activities, plenty of food leading up to the game. Should be a great game with Festus here. But really just a whole day, and hopefully we can create a buzz and some excitement and really have some fun with it. And that's the idea. And I know, you mix up formats and traditions and so on, and I understand that, and I get it, and some people be resistant to that, and that's fine. I'm like that myself in a lot of ways. But I do think as we do this, the first time, I'm sure there'll be a few wrinkles, but we will get those worked out after we sit and reflect on it. But I'm really anticipating a really fun, good day, a positive day, and a day for people to celebrate Pacific High School, Merrimack District.
Yeah, I can only see this thing kind of like you said. There might be a few wrinkles, but this just seems like a positive to try to get everybody involved. Half day of school, community out here, to roll it into a tailgate to try to even make the game bigger.
Sure.
It's already a big game as it is with homecoming, but to try to bring the community together. I always think anytime we try to get the community involved more is great. So said we're going to try to keep it as smooth as we can for you with our float. Hopefully we'll be on time and ready to go, and
right.
Don't have any issues on our end.
Yep, a lot of moving parts. We mentioned that several times already, I know, but like I said, it's the idea behind it's excellent. I think that more involvement, the better, and that ultimately that's what we're after.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with starting a new tradition. And then we talk about homecoming. So Monday night, I believe, I'm looking at the schedule now, soccer is home. So I'm going to guess you're probably not going to have a night off this week.
That's just par for the course, especially with fall. Busy, but I don't mind being busy. So especially when it's just nice outside, man.
And then Wednesday, Powder Puff game. About that a little bit too, because some people don't know about that.
Yeah, the Powder Puff game is. If you haven't checked one of those out, I highly recommend getting to one. This one in particular seems like it's going to be a pretty competitive one, in a good way. lot of preparation goes into it. We have a lot of teachers overseeing it, sponsors, and then we have football players coaching these teams. So the girls themselves are they're very competitive. Some of them are, and there's a little bit of talking going back and forth in a good-hearted way, but just kind of getting ready for that as they lead up to it. But it should be a pretty entertaining, and as always, we just hope everybody gets through it without getting hurt.
Yeah, I've heard some of the trash talk. There's definitely been a little bit coming out. Then Thursday night, it's softball's at home. Well, that's their last game of the year. 7th and 8th grade football are at Pacific at home, and volleyball's at home that night. Mm-hmm. So it's a busy schedule, and that all leads into the Friday night homecoming football game, and then the dance is on. Is it on
Saturday
this year? I haven't checked that.
Yeah.
So it's a busy schedule. As far as all that goes, the Powder Puff game, is there a tailgate or anything for that?
No, we're just going to kick off at 7 o'clock.
Okay, just to double check it. And, to throw it in there, we have parent-teacher conferences this week, too.
Yeah.
We got a lot going on here at the school. Briefly kind of mentioned last week when I had Coach Steve Smith in, just to segue over to something we talked about soccer conference. This year there's only 3 teams, so I believe, like we talked, the bylaws say that there is no technically conference champion. Still might celebrate one, but no plaque, no...
Right.
And me and Coach Brown just kind of briefly talked about it. We're not going to dig too deep in it, but possibility of maybe conference expansion or maybe a separate soccer conference where you try to add a team or two that could be looking for a conference themselves to try to bolster stuff like that. I know people love the conference talk. We see the college football realignment all the time. So it's kind of fun at the high school level just to sort of mention it.
Yes, that has been mentioned and brought up, and I think it will be brought up again. As you mentioned, with 3 teams, officially there is no conference champion for that year. St. Clair was our 4th team, but they did not have a boys soccer program this year, so that dropped it down to 3 with Pacific, Union, and Sullivan. So still a lot to play for. And still, you still want to compete and beat those schools. As you know, they are in our conference still, but just the official conference champion, we're not going to get that. Nobody is this year. So that has been brought up as a result, maybe bringing some other schools in. I know there's some interest from other schools to do that. So that's something that will be explored and see what the possibilities or interest from outside schools of maybe doing something like that. So I'm a big fan of conferences too, just because it's a season within a season, gives you something to play for, and teams you're familiar with. Obviously, that creates rivalries, and trying to grow a sport or something along those lines. That can be very beneficial to have that.
Yeah, the conferences, like you said, is very fun to have because that's usually every coach's first goal is the conference, and it's on the districts. And, in some years, as coaches, we know we get in the Class 5, Class 6 as it's one of the smallest schools. It's nice to get that conference title under your belt. But, like you said, Pacific, Sullivan, and Union, those are all rivalry games. So even without a conference there, I'm sure it's still going to be intense ball games. And Pacific got a big win last night against Union, 3-0 on the road. So that sets them up in a good spot for the rest of the way in that conference. We'll still call it the conference even though there's no plaque. Anything else for homecoming that we need to hit on that you want to promote? I know we got the dinner auction is back this year too. That could be the first time I've mentioned that this week on the show.
Absolutely. So it'll be my first dinner auction as well for a while or ever. Everybody else will be the first one in a while with the COVID years we had, but we bring that back November 12th. That'll be at the Eagles, and there'll be some more information coming out. We've had some meetings with Pacific Sports Club, so we are ironing out all those details, but that will be a great night to come out and have some fun, and be some great items up for auction. Good food. Joe Riccardi's will be catering that. So I know that people that have been there before have really said they enjoyed that. I expect it to be a lot of fun again, and it really benefits our programs here at Pacific. So I encourage everyone to come out and be looking for that information when it's available. And as far as, go back to the homecoming, really appreciate all the people that have jumped in, people over at Central Office, Dr. Swear, John, Mr. Savage, Dr. Armstrong, and transportation, Scott Roper, Joyce Moss, they have had a big job, not only this fall with all the athletics, but also this homecoming. It's new to them too. They're both on their last year going out, so they're having to figure this out right on the way out the door. But I really appreciate all the effort that's gone into it, and not only them. There's a lot of other people I could keep going, but it's been really neat to see.
Yeah, transportation's always the unsung hero when it comes to sports, because those bus drivers, they take us on those long trips, those overnight trips, all that stuff. And that's time away from their family too. So
Sure.
They've got the same issues that coaches run into and players run into
Yes.
there. So we kind of forget about them some. And like I said, the dinner auction, November 12th, I kind of sprung it on you, but I remember getting the email yesterday from you, so I figured we might as well mention it to everybody. It's from 5:30 to 9:30, and that's pretty much all the info we got right now. We're still people that have been there before know what it's about. It's a good time.
Yes.
All the coaches usually are there. Good auction items. If you need anything from the Indians Chatter crew, we can help in any way we can at that thing.
Oh yeah, yep. So we'll get out the pricing and the how you get tickets and all that will be out shortly. So we hope to see everybody there that's willing and able to get there that night again, November 12th. So that'll be the next big thing on the calendar as far as outside of sports, obviously, but get the homecoming festivities behind us, and it'll be on to the sports auction.
Yep, we got the new homecoming for you this year, and for you, like you said, something new for you at the dinner auction. We're just springing all kinds of different stuff on you in your office.
Yep, well, we're ready for it. It's just like I said, it's there's always a lot of people willing to help, and that makes it really neat and fun. So I'm game for just about anything, and I know I ask a lot of questions and have a lot of balls in the air at any given time, but it makes it doable when you have a lot of good people that are willing to sacrifice some time and answer some questions.
I'd like to thank you for joining me today. Once again, homecoming next week. We got games Monday, Wednesday's Powder Puff, Thursday there's more games at Pacific, Friday there's the big football game, parade, tailgate, football. If you're just trying to find something to do Friday night, just take the day off, or take at least half day.
Yeah.
Take it off about noon. See you out on the parade route. I know the girls basketball program bought a lot of candy the other day, so we're ready to
there'll be no shortage of
throw
candy.
some candy out there to the kids and adults. Whoever wants some candy, come on out to the parade. So hopefully this is going to be a really fun week. It's a crazy week, but it'll be a fun week of sports here at Pacific High School. Thank you all for joining us. Until next week, keep up.